Bishop, thank you. I appreciate it for this opportunity to speak today. I love you. Not only as my bishop, but my cousin, I love you. To the associate pastor of our church, Monty, I love you. To all of you who are here, I love you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
We love you too.
I'm gonna just start by saying, one, I'm not completely nervous. I'm not even these past couple of weeks, once Bishop told, me and Elder Johnson and Deacon Matt that we were going to be speaking on Wednesdays, I was thinking to myself, like, I've never stepped in front of the church before and actually spoke. What am I going to talk about? Fortunately, it's men's month, so they gave me something to base it off of with men living in favor, so I was just like, okay, cool. I can base it off of that, men living in favor. And I was like, I don't want to just talk about favor, just basic favor. Like, I was thinking to myself, because I saw a post on Instagram about 3 days ago, and it said, expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Come on now.
And, usually when I'm just scrolling at night, I just scroll. Even if I see something that catch my interest, I just scroll past it. Don't worry about it, don't look too much into it, but for some reason, I just looked at expect the unexpected. And I stayed there for about a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just looking at that. And I thought to myself, okay, that's what I'm talking about.
All right.
So, a lot of people, when it comes to favor, believe that favor is just, when everything's going right, everything is good, everything's great, everything's peachy keen, you walking through the sunshine, that's favor. Sorry to tell you that's a misconception.
That's right.
What favor truly is when you're going through something and you can't see your way out of the tunnel, and you can't see the light of day, and you can't hear nobody pray, as Bishop says. That's when God's true favor comes into your life. So, I was going through, the Bible, just reading, trying to study, trying to find exactly who I wanted to talk about today in the Bible. And you had Job. That could have been something about favor. God took everything that he had, took it away basically because of the bet with Satan. But because of the fact that Job was faithful, God gave everything that he had twofold after he showed his faithfulness. I could have said that. I could have went into Jonah when he was in the belly of the whale. He could have been digested, eaten, gone, bye-bye. But because of God's favor, he was spit out and delivered the word of God to Damascus. I could have talked about that. One thing that really stuck with me when I read it was the story of Joseph. And it stuck with me simply because a lot of people, once again, have a misconception of that story. They believe that the favor came in at the beginning of the story, when he got his cultivated colors, when his father, Jacob, loved him more than he loved any of his other sons. And everybody thought, that must be favor.
Come on, talk about it.
No, that was more of a gift.
All right.
That was more of God giving him a taste.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? So I went into it, and I went to Genesis chapter 37, verse 3. That's where I'm going to start today. And what it says is, now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age. And he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were finding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheep rose and stood upright, while your sheep gathered around mine and bowed down to it. His brother said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more. I started to think to myself, okay, he must have had favor, but that's not the end of the story. And you know, I'm not going to read through the whole story because it takes a lot of chapters and a lot of verses. But simply put, the beginning was nowhere near what the end ended up being. Joseph had no idea of what was about to happen. He couldn't even conceive what was about to happen. And that's when my subject came up. God's favor is unexpected. And I felt like this would be a great topic simply because, once again, a lot of people think that favor is just when everything's going right. And that's really not what it is. Once again, when everything's going right, that's a gift. It's God giving you gifts and blessing you. And just because you're a saint and you're one of his people, he's going to do that anyways. So a gift is something completely different than favor.
Yes.
So when I read through some more of the story, talked about how after the dreams and after, the telling his father and his brothers intended to kill him. 10 out of the 11 intended to kill him. But Reuben said, no, there's no need to kill him. That's our father's son. We can't go back to our father if we kill him. Why don't we leave him in a ditch? Then his other brother said, well, if we leave him in the ditch, what if father comes back and sees Joseph in the ditch? Then they put all 11 of their heads together and tried to think, what can we do to get away with this? So the coat that he had, the coat of many colors that we all know, they took it, ripped it up, covered it in goat's blood, sold Joseph into slavery, and then went back to their father and said Joseph was killed by a wild beast. Jacob, his father, of course, was depressed because that was his beloved son. And Joseph was a prerequisite to Jesus. Just making sure y'all understand. A prerequisite to what Jesus was coming for. But it's not my story. So, right, I can't go through all that. So, he was sold into slavery. And that's when I believe his unexpected favor started to show itself. Because instead of cursing God and hating God and hating the fact that his brother sold him into slavery, his own flesh and blood, he said, you know what? I'm going to trust in you, God. I'm going to let you handle this. And I'm going to keep going by my daily day. So, when he got to Egypt, he met a man named Potiphar. And Potiphar, at first, was just like, oh, this is another Hebrew slave. I mean, we can get him to do housework and, get him out of my hair. Joseph did so well with Potiphar, that he became second in command under Potiphar. And if you know anything about Potiphar, he was second in command under Pharaoh. Pharaoh was the leader of Egypt. So, when he stepped into Egypt, he was a slave. A couple years into Egypt, he basically the head of the household. So, from being in a ditch, to being sold slavery, to being in Potiphar's house, to being head of the household. Sounds like he's progressing. It might not be much, but he's progressing. He's not where he was. Right. So, later on, down the line, Potiphar had a wife. I feel it for Joseph. I really do. Potiphar's wife fine little thing, walking around the house, enjoying life, looking at Joseph looking at her, they looking at each other. And Joseph's like, nah, I can't do that. Potiphar is my master. I can't mess with his wife. That's disrespectful.
That's right.
But Potiphar's wife had other ideas.
Keep it real.
She was like, well, if he's not going to willingly sleep with me, I'm going to keep pushing myself on him until he sleeps. Joseph was like, no, I can't do that. You're my master's wife. I would get in trouble. You would get in trouble. It's just not a smart idea. So when she finally realized that Joseph wasn't going to sleep with her, she got him arrested. Saying that he tried to sleep with her and she screamed, and when she screamed, he ran and she had his coat that he left in there. Well, left in there. Or she snatched off. It's neither here nor there. So now he's back in prison. So, from the coat of many colors, to the dream, to the pit, to being sold into slavery, to being the head house slave, to being in prison. At this time, Joseph could have been like, God, like, what's up? Like, why? I was doing everything right. Everything was going good. But now I'm back in prison. Once again, to my first statement, everything can be going good, but that's not necessarily the case.
Okay.
God wants to see just how much you're willing to go through.
Come on.
You're willing to suffer, you're willing to take on before he shows you really who he is. So, Joseph is in prison. He meets a cupbearer. And he meets another one of Potiphar's slaves. And the cupbearer had a dream. And Joseph interpreted the dream and said, you know what, you're going to be back in Potiphar's house. But when you get there, remember me.
Come on.
The other man had a dream as well. And the dreams were pretty similar. But the other man, Joseph told him, you ain't gonna end well, big dog. You're gonna be dead in the next 3 days. And I mean, I can imagine what the other man was thinking, like, who is this fool to tell me that I'm gonna be dead just off of a dream? But, 3 days later, he was dead. Stop that. So, the cupbearer is back in Potiphar's house 3 days later. And just like Joseph had said, he's back in good standing with Potiphar. But he forgot who Joseph was. He was hyped. I'm back in the house. I'm not in jail. I'm good. I'm straight. I got here by myself. It sounds like a whole bunch of Negroes walking around, but it's fine. They believe that they got there on their own, that they had no help. Okay, cool, that's fine. So Joseph is still in jail. Joseph remains in jail for 2 years. So, this timeline. It was cool at first. The middle was, After the middle was cool, he was back walking around good. And now he's in prison. He's been in prison for 2 years. I couldn't be in prison for a day, let alone 2 years. So I could imagine in the back of his mind, he's just like, God, why do you keep putting me through what you're putting me through? I don't understand. What have I done wrong to go through all this? And I can imagine God looking back at Joseph saying, you've done nothing wrong. That's not the problem. The problem is I want to see how much you can take just so that I can bless you double that once I decide to bless you. And that's the thing with a lot of Christians nowadays. They believe that things are supposed to happen on their time.
Amen.
And unfortunately, that's not the case. You have to understand that because of the fact that God is the God who He is. If He wants to bless you now, He'll bless you now. If He wants to bless you later, He'll bless you later. Regardless of what you do in between now and later, He's going to pick exactly when he wants to bless you.
All right.
Until I read the story.
Okay.
So he got all his magicians, he got all his magic men, everybody he could, his priests, everybody to see what this dream was about. But nobody could do it. Nobody could tell him. Everybody was confused. Then the cupbearer,
Okay.
2 years ago, forgot who Joseph was. He had something kick him in the back of the head. He was just like, wait a minute, that's how I got back here. Because Joseph told me what my dream meant. So he told Pharaoh, there's a guy in your prison who he's real good at interpreting these type of dreams. Pharaoh said, okay, let me go and see what this guy's talking about. So Joseph cleaned himself up, got out of jail. He was probably happy. Skipped through town, got on some fresh shoes, got to wash his face. And he got to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh told him the dream. Joseph said, I'm not going to interpret the dream, but I'm going to let God tell me what to tell you. Because it's not me that's been interpreting these dreams. It's been God telling me exactly what I need to tell you. And you see, I believe that's where God looked at Joseph and said, yeah, I'm going to bless him real soon. Because instead of taking all of this to himself and saying he was the one doing it, he looked at me and said, God is the one helping me to get to where I am today. So he interpreted the dream, and he told Pharaoh that the dream meant that he would have 7 good years and then 7 years of famine. 7 good years, 7 years of famine. So Pharaoh asked Joseph, what do you intend for me to do? What do you think I should do? If you interpreted this dream, you should be able to tell me what I should do. And Joseph said, well, it only makes sense if you know you got a famine coming.
All right now.
And it's going to last for 7 years. You need to store up enough to last those 7 years.
All right.
So Pharaoh said, okay. Instead of me doing it, because I'm lazy, you be my second in command, and you do it. Back to the top. Call them any color. Dream. Pit. Sold into slavery. Head house slave. Jail.
All right.
Dream. 2 years back in jail. Another dream. Second in command of Pharaoh. So, I believe, once again, this unexpected seed I was talking about has been going on the whole time. Because every time Joseph seemed to be in some type of situation to where he could not see himself out of it, boom, something happens. Oh, he's back good. Boom, something happens. He's back in a higher command than where he was originally. That's what I believe favor is. Favor isn't just, oh, I got $20 in my check. I'm balling. Favor isn't, I got a new car, but I got a car note, but I got a new car. Even though I got a car note, I got a new car. No, that's not favor. Favor is when you're on the brink of death.
That's right.
You're about to get locked up for the rest of your life. You're about to go through something that you don't see a way out of it. And then God steps in and says, because you were faithful to me, I'm going to let you see how great I am. So when Joseph came up with the 7 years and 7 years, and he got, everybody to bring enough to the storage house to last for the next 7 years. 7 good years passed. It was great. They stored up enough. 7 bad years came up. This is where things get real spicy. So everybody in that region, not just in Egypt, in that region, had to go to Egypt to get food and supplies that they needed to last them. Joseph and his brothers were from Canaan,
I
right?
know that.
And Bishop, if my memory serves me well, Canaan is not too far from Egypt. It's in that same general area, right? By that time, Jacob had gotten over the fact that his son was gone. And his brothers had gotten over the fact that they did something dirty. They got away with it. But once again, the unexpected favor of Joseph's life can touch even the one that did you dirty. But because of the fact that Joseph never had any spite towards those people, and he kept them prayed up, and he kept asking God to forgive them, and he kept doing what he had to do to cover his family, even through the stuff he was going through, his family ended up being blessed. So, in the story, his family goes to Egypt. The brothers, the 11 brothers, go to Egypt. And by this time, Pharaoh was now dead. Who was head honcho? Right, Joseph. So, they had to go to Pharaoh to ask for the provisions that they needed to last them for the next 7 years.
Come on, Elder.
When they got there,
Come on
they
now.
didn't notice who Joseph was. They just saw Pharaoh, they saw the big hat and the nice outfit, and he was just dripped out, you know what I'm saying? He was just the head honcho at the time. They didn't recognize him. He had a beard, he had a facial, he had a new lineup, you know. They didn't know who he was. They was like, look, this is Pharaoh. Let's ask him if we can have what we need. Let's go back to the time. Call them many colors. Dream. If we remember what that dream was, the 11 stars that bowed to that one. Okay.
Come on, Elder. Bring it on, Elder.
So, call them many colors. Dream. Pick. Sold in slavery. Head house slave. Back in jail. Dream. Still in jail. Dream. Second in command to Pharaoh. Pharaoh. So, when they got to the palace and they saw Pharaoh, they bowed out of respect. Not knowing who Pharaoh was, never asked, they never were told, because they didn't live in Egypt, so they didn't know who Pharaoh was, they just knew he was Pharaoh. Joseph, being the smart man that he was, when he saw them walking, he said, oh, I know y'all. But instead of being spiteful, instead of being, mean, he said, you know what? I'm going to play with him a little bit. They don't recognize who I am, because they would have said something by now. But I recognize who they are. So he asked them what they needed. They told him. He asked, do you have any family back where you're from? He said, yeah, we have our father. He's of old age, but, it's us 10 and one more. Joseph said, one more? Who's the one more? And they told him that they had a younger brother. Joseph said, okay. Well, until you can bring that younger brother to me, one of you has to stay here and be in prison. Now, you're probably wondering why keep him in prison. Honestly, I feel like because he has the right to. I mean, they put him in prison, basically. But it was a test to see just how they would react to what he said. And when he noticed that they were still being, reverent, they didn't curse him, they didn't say anything negative to him, he said, okay, when they bring me the younger brother, then we'll see what happens. So, time not in. Call him any colors. Drink. Pick. Sold in slavery. Head house slave. prison. Dream, prison. Dream, second in command. Command meets his brothers again. So if you look at this entire story up to this point, it seems like it went in a complete circle.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because at the beginning he told his brothers,
Yes.
you're going to bow to me.
Yes.
But his brothers didn't believe. He told his father, you're going to bow to me. But his father didn't believe. He was sold into slavery, went to prison. All these bad things happened, but yet he still ends up being Pharaoh. One, he's not from Egypt.
That's right. That's right.
Very rare that you see a Pharaoh that's not from Egypt. But because of the fact that he had so much favor on his life, it didn't matter.
That's right.
God looked at him and said, because of the fact that even through all of this, you still remain faithful to me,
Yes.
and I'm the head honcho over all head honchos,
That's right.
I'm going to put you in a place of power.
That's right.
So when his brothers came back, they brought the younger brother. And Joseph looked at him. They had some similarities in the face. Joseph saw himself when he saw the younger brother. And that made Joseph cry. But you know, he couldn't cry in front of his brothers. He had to go off like a Jeep, get his tears out, come back. So when he came back, he said, what do you need? When he gave the brothers what they needed, they still didn't recognize who he was. And because of that, he said, no, I can't let him off the hook. They still going to play with him. So he put one of his cups, his cattle, in the younger brother's bag.
Yes.
So when he noticed that his cup was gone, he said, hold on, who took my cup? That's my good cup. I don't want nobody drinking out of that cup. Who took my cup? And then he said, the men who were just here, go find them and go find my cup. So his guards went, found Joseph's brothers, found the cup, brought them all back to Joseph. When they brought it back, Joseph said, who had my cup? And the younger brother stood up and said, I had it. It was in my bag. Joseph said, okay. Well, you can go to prison for the rest of your life. That's fine. Since you want to take my cup, even though I was being nice to you. Still, Joseph is just playing. They hadn't noticed. They think he's dead serious. But one of his brothers, one of the older brothers, steps up and says, no, he can't go to prison. Because my dad already lost one son that he loved. And now the younger brother is the new son that he loves.
I like that picture.
So we can't let him go to jail. We can't go back to our father saying another one of his loved sons is now gone because of us. So take me. Joseph looked and said, okay, they've learned. They learned a lesson about being deceitful, lying, doing dirty to get a gain. I mean, you know, Joseph realized all of that and said, okay, brother, it's me. And his brother looked at him and said, I don't know you. He said, brother, it's me. He said, who are you? He said, I'm Joseph. And everybody stopped. It was real quiet. And the brother said, Joseph? As in our brother Joseph? And Joseph said, yeah, it's me. I know you don't recognize me because I'm looking good.
That's right. That's right.
But it's me. And of course, once they realized it, they wept, they, embraced Joseph, and Joseph said, you all can come and live with me. Time. Call him any colors.
Yeah.
Dream.
Yeah.
Fit. Slavery. Head house slave. prison.
Uh-huh.
Dream.
Yeah.
Still in prison.
Yeah.
Dream. Second in command, Pharaoh. One big happy family. So when I read the whole story, I said, that's what favor is to me.
Yeah.
Even through the turmoils of his childhood, even through being lied on by a scandalous little female, even when Buddy that he just helped out forgot about for 2 years,
Yes. Yes.
he still ends up one big happy family. Favor to me has become something that I really connect with. I connect with that word. Because through my life personally, I've been through some ups. I've been through some downs. But I feel like because of the fact that I had a strong foundation, to understand that because of the fact that God is the God who He is, and in His permissive will, He will allow you
Watch yourself.
to go through something to build you to a place where you need to be. I believe that's why favor is such a strong word to me. I believe that, if everything in your life has been great, you should expect something real bad to happen if you're in good with God. Because God ain't going to have you if you ain't never been through nothing. Because you can't tell the next person that because of what you've been through, this is where you are right now, and you're a better person because of it. So, if you don't go through nothing, you can't spread His message. Which means He can't use you. And even though Joseph had a great start, he didn't go through nothing. He always had everything handed to him. His father loved him more than he loved the other brothers, so he got all the best shoes, all the best gear, all the best games. He got everything. The guy said, you know what? I'm going to use you. And because I'm going to use you, you got to go through something. Because you can't tell everybody that you just had everything handed to you all your life. That ain't going to be a good story to tell somebody. They're not going to believe me. So because he went through what he went through, he now, once again, is a prerequisite for Jesus. And when Jesus got on the scene, he had everything. He was Jesus. He had everything. It was in heaven, chilling, kicking. But when he got here, the only way that he could show his message was to go through something. So throughout his entire life, he had to go through this thing, and this thing, and this thing. He had to help this person, and this person, and this person. But while he was helping them, he was still going through things at the same time. See, a lot of people don't realize the favor on your life isn't something that you prayed for, isn't something that you thought about, isn't something that you even realized was possible. Favor is something that God said, this is where I want you to go. Even though you have a view of where you want to go, I'm going to turn you this way and get you to where I want you to go. So, because of the fact that he went to Calvary, makes his rising so much more powerful. Because if he was just alive all those years and just lived a happy life, the story wouldn't be as powerful as what it is.
Amen.
Because God showed favor even to his own son. I'm going to use you to bless everyone from this point forward.
My Lord.
Because going back to what Bishop has taught time and time again, we had separation between us and God. Jesus was that middleman that came in and said, you know what? This is your favorite creation. Just like Moses was his favorite son. You need them. You need them just as much as they need you because you made them for a purpose.
That's right.
So, I believe that favor works in two different ways. One, you have the favor that you are pretty much born with. Once you grow and learn and are raised up in church, you have that favor because of just the fact that you've been in church and you know what favor is. And So you feel like when good things happen, that's favor. Then you have the unexpected favor. That's my favorite type of favor.
Right down there.
Because just as much as I go through at any point in time, I still understand that at some point,
Yes.
it might not be now,
Yes.
it might not be later,
Yes.
it might be after that, you know.
Yes.
But at some point,
Some
because of the fact that you keep the faith to God, the fact that you do what He asks you to do, the fact that you've been faithful with the little things that He's given you, He's going to show His favor in some miraculous way. So, to end my sermon, I guess you could call it. Today is June 19th. If you know anything about history, it's Juneteenth. A very significant day for Black people.
Yes. Yes.
Originally, when I was growing up in school, they would teach us about how all the slaves were freed and everything was back to normal, whatever. Black folks was good, white folks was good. But then I got to college and I went to HBCU. And I learned, no, that ain't really how it went.
Say.
When the Civil War was over, only the slaves in the rebellious states,
Teach it up.
and if you need to know what the rebellious states are, only the slaves that were in the Confederacy were free. There were a lot of states where they weren't rebellious to the Union. So those slaves were not free. So June 19th, 1865, all slaves were free.
Right.
And I believe because of the fact that we're speaking about favor, there's no better way to show it than the history of Black people.
Right.
Come on now.
Right.
It's gonna.
Because in Africa, there were kings, queens,
Yes.
royalty,
Yes.
got taken away from our home, sold into slavery.
Come on, Elder.
Watch out.
Sold into slavery.
Watch out.
Put in prison, beaten,
Timeline.
stabbed, raped, murdered,
Yes.
hung.
Yes.
Civil War happens. Half of the slaves are free. Other half, they still in prison. They still in that prison.
Right.
Kings,
Ah.
sold to slavery. Working, thinking we're good with master, but then beaten right after that.
That's right.
Free, somewhat.
Yeah.
That's right. Somewhat.
Free, completely.
All right.
Now, so when I thought about it, Juneteenth and Joseph had a lot in common.
Yes. Yes.
Joseph went through his up. Joseph went through his down. Black people went through their up.
Yeah.
Black people went through their down. Joseph became a king. We have people